Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about lists in React. Now a list is basically a collection of elements. Now I'm going to take the React website as an example. The list that you see on the right over here, this is a list. So pretty much it's a collection of links that takes you to different parts of the documentation. And now I'm going to show you how to build something like this in React. Now, I'm going to build a separate component for this just to have clean code. So I'm going to create a function. I'm going to call it a to-do list because we're going to be building a list of to-dos. I'm not going to have any parameters, and this will return an empty div for now. Okay, so this is our to-do list component. We're going to call it under our title. Now that this is not showing anything, so for example, let's create a title, that says to-do list. Now if we go to our app, you can actually see the title being shown. Okay, so we're gonna build a list. So a list is, in its most basic form, an array. So let's build an array, but we're not gonna use a simple array. We're gonna use the React useState hook because we're gonna modify this array later. We're gonna have like dynamic logic that adds and removes elements from the list. So we're gonna use useState. I'm gonna use this snippet from the extension that I showed you in my recommended extensions video, and we're gonna call it to-dos. And by default, since it's a list, I want to give it a default value, and I'm gonna give it an empty array. So right now it's gonna initialize a to-dos variable that has a value of an empty array. And I'm gonna save this, and as usual, nothing's gonna change. Now let's add some actual elements. So our list is gonna be an array of objects. So as you can see, each element has an ID. Now I'm gonna tell you later why we need this ID. And there's also obviously text, well, that shows you what the actual to-do is. And we have a boolean that indicates whether this to-do has been completed or not. So by default, none of them are completed, which makes sense. And now we're gonna loop through this array and output the list to our DOM. So now to go through the list, I'm gonna use a JavaScript method called map. Now map is a method that you call on arrays in JavaScript that basically goes through each element in the array and it returns a new array. So it's very important to understand that map doesn't modify the original array, it instead returns a new array. As you can see in this case, our array is basically an array of numbers. We map through it. The X is pretty much indicates each number in the array. And in this case, we multiply each element by 2 and returns it to a new array. So basically map1 contains each element of the first array multiplied by 2. As you can see when we press run, we have 2, 8, 18, which is basically each element multiplied by 2. Now in our case, okay, first of all, I'm gonna have to use UL because it's like an unordered list in order to have semantic HTML, because each element is gonna be a list element. And as you can see, this is our to-dos array. We're gonna map through it. We're gonna have the to-do in each element of the array. So in the first iteration, it's gonna be this one, and then it's gonna be this one, and then it's gonna be this one. So for each to-do, we're gonna return a list element. We're gonna have the text of the to-do as the actual text that is shown to the user. But as you can see, we have a key element. Now this is very important in React when you're gonna use lists. Now for now, I'm gonna delete it so I can show you why we actually need this key element attribute. So if I go to my code, now as you can see, the elements are shown, so we don't really need the key. But if we open the console, we're gonna see this React warning, right? It says each child in a list should have a unique key prop. Now this key prop is important because it's a way for React to basically differentiate between each element. It's an optimization technique most of the time. So when you actually modify one of the elements, React doesn't have to pretty much go through all of the elements again. It only updates the element that was modified. So this is the important role of a key prop. Now if I go back, I'm gonna bring it back. Now I'm gonna go to my React app, I'm gonna refresh, and as you can see, the warning no longer shows up. So always keep this in mind. The key prop is very important. And if you don't put it, actually React uses the index by default, which is the second property in the map callback. But like you don't have to explicitly define this. React by default, when you don't add a key prop, it uses the index. But it's very important that you explicitly put your key prop because the index isn't always unique. So when you remove an element, like the order changes, but the index kind of messes up the rendering of React. So it's always important to actually provide your own key prop and not use the index. Okay, so this is our list. As you can see, we're simply outputting an array. And like I said, we're using the useStateHook because later on in the playlist, I'm gonna show you how we can actually add elements, remove elements, and even update elements, since we're gonna be building a small to-do app. And of course, we used a new component. So as you can see, we have the app title component and we have the to-do list component. So as you can see right now, our app is pretty self-explanatory. So when you open the code, when you look at this, you can understand the app structure very quickly, which is why component based programming is very important and why it makes application development very easy. So yeah, that's how you pretty much output lists in React. You go through different elements, and the map method is the most important method of all. You probably, like 99% of the time, we're going to be using the map method. So yeah, in my next video, I'm going to show you how to actually add elements to the list and remove them and modify them. So yeah, see you in my next video.